Okay, tolerance is attention. What a wonderful theme, isn't it? Especially today, what is happening in the Middle East. And actually, I got this keyword from my mentor. He's also Omani. I had some tension in some small initiative in some country. Then my mentor, he's Omani, told me the keyword tolerance. And I was impressed by this keyword. And I wanted to explore more how it works in the region. That's one point. And dialogue between the Far East and the Middle East. But actually today we have 2 Japanese and 2 Omanis representing the Middle East and the Far East. But there's some intention. Because as far as I observe Oman from my 2 years in the past, actually Oman is, performing already, not Pax Japonica, Pax Omani. That's what I learned. And that is a country who is taking a very, very important role to stabilize the region. So that's, again, I wanted to learn. So that's why I invited 2 Omani as a representative of Middle East today, right? So today I would like to explore how, the Pax Omani, Pax Japonica in the region, how it works. And hopefully how that, the initiative can change the world. So that's the session. So our imaginations, our insights, and our actions need be questioned, right? So let's explore from our imagination. So I would like to throw the question to all panelists, the same question. When you listen to this panel theme, the tolerance in the tensions, right? And what is in your mind first? And if you put that image in a keyword, what would it be and why? So that's my question. So Mr. Ali from OQ Oman, he's from Oman. And what is your image of tolerance in the tension, please?
Let me check. Can you hear me well? Everybody can hear me well? Excellent.
I think your voice is a little bit... Sorry, this is MMC. I think your voice is a little bit fuzzy. Would you get your mouth closer to the microphone, maybe?
All right. Can you hear me now a little bit better?
Yes, better.
Very good. So first of all, I would like to thank you, Mr. Toro and GLOBIS, for the invite to be part of this panel with a very esteemed guest. And I'm very humbled to be joining with His Excellency, the Oman Ambassador in Japan, the former Ambassador of Japan to the Middle East, Oman and Iran, and the professor as well. So, again, I'm looking forward for this panel and putting my views, humble views, in front of a very esteemed leaders you have there together in the room. So if I start with one key word of tolerance, I would say, for me, it's Oman. Oman is the key word for tolerance. Now,
okay, why? Why Oman is a key word?
Exactly. Now, if you go back historically, and we go back from the days of his prophet, when we talk about when Islam came, Oman was the first country in history that moved into that, religious belief with his prophet in peace, without any form of war. So starting from those days and even earlier, Oman has been always a bridge between different nations.
Okay, thank you very much. So he's saying Oman is a keyword for tolerance in the tensions. Okay, so Your Excellency, would you share your thoughts about tolerance in the tensions? And if possible, just share the keyword and why it would be the keyword.
So first of all, I'd like to start by thanking everybody who worked very hard to make the G1 conference a reality today. And thank you so much for inviting me. My great regards to all my colleagues in the panel and all those in attendance. All right. I think tolerance is a very important word, but it lacks to really demonstrate what Oman stands for. I think Oman can be better explained by coexistence. which really encapsulates a lot more than just tolerance. Because tolerance, you can accept the other person, but you may not, accept him fully. You just tolerate him to a certain extent. But coexistence is really the essence of Oman. We, because of our history, because of our maritime history, our engagement with many people across the world, Oman is a maritime nation, and we never looked at the sea as a barrier or boundary. We've always looked at the sea, the open seas, as a way to reach out and to communicate with the peoples of the world. I think Oman is very fortunate to have been one of the oldest nations in the world who was able to travel and shake hands with many peoples and many peoples across our history. By the way, it's quite a long history. Many people don't know how old Oman is. Oman is one of the oldest nations in the world. And I'll leave this to another time to shed lights. But throughout our long history, we have always, dealt, and we've always communicated. We've always exchanged with many people around the world. And coexistence is because of this. This is one of many reasons, of course. We accept, we respect others. We don't actually have to, tolerate others, even though tolerance is part of it. But because of the way we were raised, because of our history, we look at the differences as something that is natural, as something that is normal, as something that is not, exclusive to others. So we look at the difference as a way to reach out across the aisle, to accept people as they are, not to force any of our prejudgment or ideas on others. So we basically coexist with many of the people around the world, and we respect them for what they are, and we expect that others also accept us for what we are. I know that one of the biggest problems that many people have is preconceptions or stereotypes. This doesn't really live in Oman. It doesn't. It's not an Omani way. We don't have preconceptions. We always look at people for what they are, and we celebrate the differences and accept it fully. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Actually, I was shocked when I visited Oman. Actually, I didn't know Oman well. Then I was shocked when I saw Oman. Very different image, but I have biased a lot. But that is maybe Ambassador. We just share more for next discussion. Thank you very much. Okay, Professor Keiko-san, would you share your thoughts about the tolerance in the tensions?
Okay, thank you very much for invitation to inviting me to such kind of the excellent panel, and especially on the day of the starting of the ceasefire in Gaza, and actually I can say release of the hostages. So it's kind of the memorial and the historical day. It will be the historical day. As for the tolerance, yes. Actually, the ambassador, His Excellency Ambassador, used the term coexistence. I'm glad that I didn't choose this term. First, I chose this term, but I changed to another word. That another word is justice. I mean, tolerance without justice can be nothing. And in order to achieve the tolerance, we need to share the idea of the justice, and we have to keep the justice. We cannot say to the victims under the victim under the massive attack or terrorist attack or the humiliation of the human right to keep tolerant to the others. So this is my idea.
Okay, thank you very much, Keiko-san. Okay, so may I ask the another ambassador, Saito-san, ambassador to Oman and Iran, would you share your thoughts about the tolerance in the tensions, please?
Thank you very much for inviting this occasion. However, I was just asked to come 2 days ago, so I didn't have enough time to prepare. By the way, talking about the tolerance in tension, I say this is one of the major aspects of the Japanese foreign policy. For example, when I was a Japanese ambassador to Iran, Trump first administration resumed its unilateral sanction against Iran. And I tried to convince Iranian officials that because during that time, suddenly the tension in the Gulf region raised up. For example, Japanese-owned tanker was attacked. And said, it is not a proper way to escalate the retaliation. It doesn't solve the problem, or it doesn't calm down the tension. And I quoted the famous Aesop's fable, the north window and the sun. Also, I thought Japan should play a role to calm down the tension between two countries. And then it was June 2019, late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe visited Tehran to calm down the tension. It is true, he was asked by President Trump to persuade Iranians to negotiate with the United States. But it obviously seems to be no fly because Iranian side was excited by that decision. So instead of persuasion, Prime Minister Abe proposed Japanese own unique proposal, which make both Iran and the United States happy. Very much unfortunately, his efforts failed after 6 months. But this is one of the example of Japanese foreign policy with tolerance in the tension. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we are sharing the panelist image of the tolerance in the tensions. So let's explore the deeper insights, right? How our strengths, Oman's or Japan's strengths, can really work as a real strategy for global stability. And we want to know the reality more. So first of all, may I ask Your Excellency, Oman's diplomacy is, in a sense, calm, if I understand well, but never passive. Maybe leading not by force, but through dialogues, if I understand well. So would you tell us, so what is the essence of this approach? And how does it work when others rely on power and pressures, right? So superpowers around us, but how it works? That's my question.
Thank you very much. I think we have to understand it's because of these values that Oman, I'm answering backwards, so is very successful where others perhaps have failed. There are many reasons, but I think because Oman is always a very honest broker. We do not seek to get any value or any gain from these efforts. And I think throughout our modern history, and we've seen that Oman always keeps channels of communication open. We firmly believe in dialogue, in diplomacy. We do not think that force is sustainable. You cannot bring about change with force, no matter how brutal or how big force is. Human beings are very strange creatures. They possess so much power and determination. And what you really need to do is look at how you can bring about, and I'll use the word that I initially wanted to use, is justice. This is more sustainable. This is more profoundly, accepted by the majority of the peoples in the world. So when Oman, one of the key issues in mediation, when Oman is asked to mediate, we don't interfere, and we need to be asked actually by both sides. This is one of our key policies, because we know you cannot have forced diplomacy. onto others. They need to be ready, they need to be willing, and they need our assistance. And of course, we are more than happy to assist. We always do it discreetly. So we avoid media, propaganda. We try to be very calm. We try to work with both sides in a way to achieve our goal, which is to find some kind of resolution acceptable to both. If you use too much, force or force diplomacy, you make one of the sides at least, it doesn't work, because one of the sides will feel that you are forcing them into accepting certain resolutions. But when you use diplomacy, when you use an even-handed approach to both sides, when you have similar distances from both sides, they accept this and they know that you are genuine, that you really want to achieve a result, an end result, and this really gives a better product at the end. Thank you.
Just quick questions. What kind of typical efforts do you do to keep such a stance of Oman and make the continue to keep such a, role of the region? What kind of typical efforts? Could you share something?
Well, it's not really a lot of effort. This is in our DNA. This is how we are. We like to have justice. We like to keep the peace. We have a very golden track record of this. And when we are asked, and when both sides really need our help, we are willing to step in. Maybe through examples, I can give an impression. During the Iran in history, Oman, we never broke up diplomatic ties. We've always kept it. We feel we have responsibilities to keep the peace in the region, in the world, and with the Houthis, we never intervened militarily. We always kept a very decent approach, respectful approach. And eventually we've seen results with Saudi Arabia, for example, and Houthi achieving a breakthrough with the U.S. and the Houthis in the Red Sea. We were the go-to country to try and resolve this successfully. With Iran-Iraq war, we had embassies in both countries at the same time. So it's something that is natural to us. We have a long history. In history, as long as Oman, you must have made mistakes where you've learned from. So I think our approach is very much matured through experience, through trial and error. And we've come to this point that we really understand what it really takes to bring about peace and dialogue. Another, very quickly in 10 seconds, the Hormuz Strait is a very important passage. That's another example. Now, none of our oil or products will pass through since it's at the northmost tip of Oman. But we understand that we have obligation to the world to make it peaceful. And I think through good relations with Iran, we've kept this obligation through many years. A lot to be said, but the time is quite short.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to Oman, do you know the 90% of the oil to Japan that comes through a Hormuz Strait? So thank you for Oman to keep our oil import in a safe way. Thank you very much for sharing. Okay, Professor Keiko-san, you have studied the Middle East policy for a long time. You as a country watcher or regional watcher. Then the same questions. Under what conditions or strategies can the approaches Oman or Japan be effective? And what determines whether calm diplomacy succeeds or is simply ignored? So from your point of view, would you share your thoughts?
Okay, thank you very much for this question. This is a very tough question and very difficult to answer. But actually, listening to the comment from his excellent ambassador, I think that the Japan has a lot of things to learn from the Omani case, because as you mentioned, Oman is located in between the Saudi Arabia and Iran and the other regional superpowers there, and then very, very good in keeping the omni-balancing diplomacy. But not only that, which I believe that the Japan can learn from your cases is that you used to have very big empire there. And really, well, you never imagined that from the East Africa to the Gulf area. Well, the Oman used to be a very big empire, but unfortunately, that empire was defeated by the West and mainly the British power. So, but now at the time, actually, it was called as a kind of the Pax Omanica, but now he never say. I mean, the Omani never said the Pax Omanica. And the Oman is really the soft power in the region and doing the very big role in mediating the conflict countries in the region, but still they don't show a lot. I mean, Oman doesn't show his presence, and never said that he wanted to be the hegemon in the region. So, Japan, considering the past and the history, Japan used to be the empire and the imperial past, and then we have experience of the defeated in the war. But and actually, I'm sorry to say that staying in the next to Ambassador Saito from the MOFA. The MOFA used to have 3 principles for the foreign diplomacy. The first, of course, the alliance was the United States. They don't say the alliance, but the cooperation with the United States. But at the same time, they keep a good relation with the neighboring countries, especially in Asia, in order to recover their negative history with neighboring countries, and also respect the United Nations. The point is that actually, I really wonder whether the Japanese diplomacy keeps such kind of the principles until now or not. And if they keep it, I think that it can work as the same as the Omani diplomatic stance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Maybe I will ask Ambassador Saito of this, but before that, I will ask Mr. Ari. Thank you for waiting, Mr. Ari. From business person perspectives, the diplomacy is not only for the government. People to people, company would be sometimes more important. So would you share your thoughts or your perspectives in terms of the tolerance in the tensions from the business person perspective to the people here? Would you share your thoughts, please?
Absolutely. So just to sorry.
Mr. Ali, I can't hear you. Okay, Mr. Ali, I can hear you. So would you prepare your answer, right? Then before that, Saito-san. So after hearing His Excellency and Professor Keiko, what do you think about Japan's potential to shape dialogue and stability in the region? And what have you done to make its engagement more strategic and sustainable? What do you think about this?
First of all, you might realize Japan imports over 90% of crude oil from the Gulf region. We heavily depending on the oil from the Gulf. However, that important fact is not well realized or shared by the majority of Japanese politicians or Japanese people. So when the clash in Gaza started last 2 years ago, I was asked to express my opinions to the TV news or magazines or newspapers. But Japanese mass media people's interest is only in the humanitarian aspect. But certainly this is a very important issue in Gaza. But never think beyond it. I mean, they don't understand, but this is not an issue, nothing to do with Japan, but also it is an issue we should be more seriously concerned. So, first of all, I think Japanese people should realize the reality from where Japanese oil is coming from and how much Japan is depending on the peace and stability in the Gulf region. Second, yes, Japan is relying on 90% of oil from the Gulf. But at the same time, for the Gulf countries, Japan is a very important customer. For example, in 2023, Saudi Arabia exported 15% of its oil production to Japan, Kuwait 14%, and UAE even 30%. Or Iran, under the US sanction, we do not buy oil anymore. But before, even reached 50% of Iranian oil came to Japan. So we should change our mind. Yes, we need oil from the Gulf, but at the same time, we have a buying power. So we should not hesitate to exercise our influence to the peace and stability in the Gulf region. For example, Japan can or should say to the Gulf countries, but because now they are purchasing military equipment endlessly and accumulating weapons a lot. But Japan should advise them, accumulation of the weapon only increasing instability and disturbing the peace and stability in the region. So you should reconsider this way. And certainly, what Japan can do is quite limited. Particularly, we have a limitation with the military presence, but in other diplomatic way or political way, Japan can provide some assurance the security or safety in the Gulf region. That's all.
Thank you very much. May I ask Your Excellency, what do you think about Your Excellency of the Oman? What do you think about the Saito-san's comment? He's saying that using the buying power, but it's not the Japanese culture. Sometimes we are too humble. But anyway, what do you think about this?
I can never disagree with His Excellency Saito-san. But I think, as Omani, I fully respect what he says. And I think, the potential is huge. And I think Japan needs to look more closely at the changes, at the dynamics that's happening around the world, in the Middle East. And I believe there's huge potential for Japan to really work out of the context of the traditional box and look at the opportunities that are there. Huge potential, huge opportunities.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Ari, are you ready?
I hope I'm ready.
Yeah, now it's good. Okay, so please share your business person perspectives for the tolerance in the tensions, please.
Excellent. So let me start by first, I liked what His Excellency, the Ambassador of Oman in Japan said, DNA. Even in the companies from a business perspective, we take that DNA part and we want to instill it in any of our business. Because we think that leadership without diplomacy, leadership will not succeed in driving anything for the organization, countries, or growth, especially for companies like us where we represent our contribution to the country's GDA and the national economy. So let me give you a few examples here, Mr. Toro. First, inside, I'll give you two examples. One is internally and then the external part. Internally in OQ, we start by developing our leaders with a couple of values. One of the key values is care, collaborate. And when you translate care and collaborate into diplomacy, is we want our people to be more tolerable, more understanding to the other side, and how to make the aspect of this tolerance a success that returns back to the company as well as to the country. So internally, we manage mega projects that drives the national economy and attracts multinational investors. Today, without our friendship and the long-lasting friendly diplomacy around the world, I don't think as a company we would have been as successful as we are today in attracting foreign investment, as well as also for us being an international company expanding globally. The second element, I think His Excellency also touched on it, our geographical position is another strength for us. And if we don't couple it with tolerance, I don't think the advantage of how our location is in terms of attracting business and being a trading arm and a trading zone for Asia or the Western side, we will not be successful. Today we have the Hermes Peninsula that, majority of the foreign trades move around. Today we are dropping another economic zone, which is the Dokkum, which is right at the Indian Ocean. So all these, strengths that we bring together in Oman, without the tolerance, I don't think we will be successful. The last point, I think if you look at it from Japan perspective, I think we would love to have Japan investments more coming to Oman. We know we can learn a lot from the Japan tradition, as well as looking at how Japan developing leadership and leaders. I think this is another aspect we can collaborate together.
Thank you very much. Maybe I should go into discussion 3, and I'd like to continue ask questions, Mr. Ari. Here is not many people today, and would you appeal Oman or Middle East to Japanese people or Japanese business persons? What would you say? Please market Oman to people here. And we want to invite more people to Oman and the region. What would you say?
I would say, Oman has an open, welcoming arms to anybody that wants to come to Oman. We are, as a nation, we will not only welcome the person to Oman, but we will also support and guide whoever comes to Oman to better understand what Oman can bring, deliver, and what benefits the other party will gain by coming to Oman. So that's one element. The second element, I think we highlighted it in my previous discussion as well. His Excellency highlighted a lot on that. I think we bring a lot of values in terms of our, relationship, not only regionally, but also globally. I think the third element is our strength in our geographical location. So I think welcoming, Japanese to Oman, not only for having Japanese companies or investors to invest in Oman, but also expanding Oman business to the Far East, utilizing the Japanese strength, culture, and relationship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ali. Maybe you don't believe, but GLOBIS is planning to open the GLOBIS Middle East in Muscat. That's a plan. Maybe I think I can say already this, right? It's open. Yeah, already. Yeah, it's because we believe that Oman culturally, we feel the sympathy. And after observing Oman, this is a nice place, very open, fair, and very access to different places. So we like to start with Oman, our activity in the region. And maybe by the end of this fiscal year, we are trying to open up the GLOBIS Middle East in Muscat. So please help our activity. So that's the proof of how Oman is good for the business or collaborations. That is one example from GLOBIS. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ali. And the next one, Professor Keiko-san. I read your article in Asahi Shimbun, and you insisted that Japan should pursue its own path in the Middle East diplomacy. So what is your point, and how Japan should be looking like, if your Japan's pathway would realize? Would you share? And what kind of courage we should have? Would you share with us?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we are talking about the case of the Oman and the future of the Omani-Japan relation. But quite unfortunately, I never been to Oman. But instead, I used to study. I used to work in Iraq before 2 wars. During the first war, during the Iran-Iraq war, and at the time, I remember that the Japanese company was very, very active in Iraq in the 70s and the 80s, and then also in Iran, also there are a number of Japanese companies. Okay, so when we talk about the Japanese role in the Middle East, well, maybe you focus on the role of the MOFA. Diplomatic activities. But I strongly believe that the role of the business circles are much more effective than, I'm sorry to say, but MOFA or any other diplomatic activities, because you know that at the time, the Ambassador Saito-san mentioned about the role of the oil. So we imported a lot of oil from the Middle Eastern countries, but at the same time, in the 70s, in the end of the 70s and the beginning of the 80s, we used to sell a number of constructing projects to the Middle East, mainly to Iran, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. And you don't believe that at that time, Japan, the export counterpart of the Japanese constructing project was not the United States nor China. It was Iran or Iraq or Saudi Arabia since the late 70s and the 80s. So in that sense, I think that the business company should go back to the Middle East. Unfortunately now, of course, there's a number of Japanese companies working in the UAE or Saudi Arabia or other Gulf countries, which is rather safe. But unfortunately, we cannot go to Iraq or Syria, or because of the sanction to Iran. The people there, or business people there in Iraq or Syria or Iran are eager to welcome a Japanese company to come back, especially for the Iraq, they are waiting for more than 20 years after the Iraq war. So after the Iraq war, the first reaction from the Iraqi people there was that, good, that we finished Saddam's regime and we finished the war. So now that we are going to have Japanese company to reconstruct our country. But the Japanese company never went. So that partly because of the security issue, of course. We cannot blame the Japanese company, but now it's getting better. So I think I really hope that the Japanese business circle can play their bigger role in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Actually, my first overseas assignment was in Iran already many years ago. And at that time, really a lot of machines, plants, and the rehabilitation project were there. And really Japanese companies are involved. And I learned a lot. And I found many similarities culture-wise in Iran. So that changed my life. And before that, I learned Iran from CNN, BBC, NHK. They put in many stupid things and the people really scared. And actually I was also scared before going to Iran. But after going to Iran, my awareness, my understanding to Iran was totally changed. Nice people and culturally very similar, and not many criminals. Los Angeles, New York is much, much more dangerous. So anyway, GLOBIS will prove, again, come back to the region by establishing GLOBIS Oman. So that is my promise here. Okay, so let me ask two ambassadors. First of all, Saito-san. Now, our ultimate goal today is how we can, not only Oman and Japan, but how our stance, how our approach can expand to the world, and how we can contribute to the stability of the world or peace. So what would you do?
What we could do? First of all, I am the Middle East expert. Allow me to focus on the Middle East. First of all, I have to say, as a matter of fact, the freedom of a free hand of Japanese foreign policy in the Middle East is narrower and narrower and narrower, because that is reflecting the raising tension in the Far East. Because for Japan, Japan-US alliance is very much crucial. So we voluntarily refrain from any possible provoking issue vis-à-vis the United States, as a matter of fact. So that narrows our hand to maneuver to Iran. Second, talking about Japan-Oman relations, particularly again vis-à-vis Iran. So Oman showed a tremendous effort and positive result as playing a role of a good office. Not intervening the negotiation, but providing the venue and occasion. And unfortunately, that suddenly ended by U.S. bombing, but ended. And Japan can do mediation, like Prime Minister Abe did. Mediation means proposed own idea to calm down the tension between Iran and the US. So I think Japan and Oman can cooperate, at least in terms of the calming down the tension between US and Iran. And I believe we must move quickly, because I'm afraid June bombing by Israel failed to achieve their goals. So Israel may attack Iran in a very near future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, last question to Your Excellency Ambassador. Let me ask two questions. One question is, if I understand well, Oman arranged the meeting between US and Iran for inviting Trump, and you arrange. So again, why it was possible? Why Oman was chosen for both countries? That's one question. And second question, you stay in Japan, and in a sense, I believe you are the friend of Japanese. And what might Japan, from your perspective, what might Japan still be overlooking or underestimating in its engagement with its Middle East operations activities of Japanese companies or government? Maybe Professor Keiko's point, Japan is a bit, stepping back compared to 70s, 80s. So what would you say to Japanese government, business persons, companies about that? So let me ask you two questions.
Thank you very much. First question is quite difficult, but I'll come to it. The second question is difficult, but the first question is, I think the credibility of Oman, puts it on the prominent stage. I think it's not the first time that Oman has mediated between the US and Iran. Many years ago, there was a very successful mediation, P5+1, and there was an agreement on the nuclear question for Iran. And then we were asked to mediate again, and we were quite successful, actually. Q&A, all right. Right. So we were quite successful, but we didn't expect, that two countries in the middle of negotiation, that one of them would bomb the other, which derailed the whole, I think, effort. But I think Oman has nothing to gain, personally. We're very honest. We want peace in the region. We want to bring, the whole world to a better place. I think it's in the interest of everyone. For the second question, I said it's difficult because...
You can be severe to the Japanese.
The difficulty is, as Omanis and as a foreign policy, Oman really, never interferes in personal affairs of other countries. This is a golden rule. This is an iron curtain that we have kept for ages, but I'll make this exemption, but I'll talk only from a personal perspective. And I think Japan can gain a lot, and Japan needs to have engagement further and more engagement with the Middle East because of what the Middle East can bring to the table and can bring to Japan. And I think the changes that are happening in the Middle East as a whole. There's a term that I've read in many research papers, political papers, which is the oil curse. Now, this has two sides to it. One side was on our end, where we were too reliant on oil and hydrocarbons, and this really didn't allow us to progress and reach our full capacity. This has changed recently for a number of years, especially with the Vision 2040, with His Majesty Sultan Haytham leadership. We are really approaching new limits. And we have really achieved in such a short time quite huge achievements. And really the sky is the limit, and I think what Oman is moving into is very promising. And we would love, a country that we respect, that we want to have more involvement with, to be present. If Japan is not present, if Japan is missing out, it will create a vacuum, and this vacuum cannot stay forever. Someone else will fill this vacuum. So we really hope that Japan really understands what's happening in Oman, the progress, the great progress that is happening, and become part of our journey to the future with us, economically, politically, etc. I think also a term that I hear a lot in Japan, a political term, mind or similar-minded or like-minded countries. And they fail to recognize Oman as a country that shares a lot. You always need to look at the cup, the half or more than half, which is full, than, the differences. And actually, I think we supersede the expectation of Japan. If they really look, without preconception, if they really look at Oman, because we share a lot, maybe we have more actually to offer Japan. When I talked about coexistence in my earlier part, it's beyond anything you can think of, because there's no prejudice in Oman, nothing against, religion, different gender, different. Everybody is equal in the eyes of Oman. Even women in Oman are treated equally, much more than many of the other nations that we see around the world. And this is a point that sometimes people have a preconception, and they think the Middle East, they don't give women equal as men, but this is absolutely not true. So like-mindedness, Oman and Japan share a lot. And I think I think we need Japan to have an open-minded approach to Oman, to really look at what is happening, to look at the opportunities, to look at the geostrategic location of Oman. It's on the crossroad of the world, and there are huge potentials. I think there's a lot to say. I wish I had an hour more, but I'm looking at the Q&A, and it's putting a lot of pressure on me to stop.
Sorry.
But I would love to say a lot more.
Maybe you open up the questions, and maybe we have a chance to talk more. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And let's open up the floors. Any questions? All right, let's go with him. Thank you very much. So please tell your name and if you have a specific panelist.
Okay, thank you. My name is Chol Min, and I'm very interested in the relation between Japan and the Middle East. But when I think of that relation, I cannot forget the countries like India and China. I would like you to share any difference between those kind of business relation between, like, for example, Oman and China, Oman and India. Is there any difference between Oman and Japan?
Okay, Ambassador, please, yes.
Let me just, talk about, I'm not an expert on any of these questions, but maybe from Japan perspective, as I served in Japan, there is definitely a long-term relation, which is built on trust and experience. We found Japan to be a trustworthy partner. They've always been up to the standards that we expected. And these standards are very high. And I think when we deal with Japan, we feel that we really know them. We have tested them in good times and in difficult times, and they always stood out. So Japan is really unique, and they have a very unique standing. Many of the Japanese don't realize how high their status is in Oman, in specific, in Oman and in the Middle East in general. And they could really capitalize on this. Now, China is a very important trade partner. We have great relations with China. And, we look at the whole region as a very strategic region. A lot of our oil and gas is exported to this region. So having a very strong region, having a peaceful region, having a region that is thriving with strong economy is good for us, because it would immediately implement and affect us negatively if anything, would happen. So we hope that there are, it's a calm region. It continues to be calm. Diplomacy prevails, and we continue to hold the highest standards and highest level of relations with both countries. Having said this, I'm happy to say that we are getting a lot of investment from Japan now in billions of USDs, and this is expected to grow exponentially with the coming years. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. Yes.
Two questions. First one is Keiko-san. Second one is Mohammed-san. The Keiko-san, could you specify which industry or which name of Japanese company who can potentially have a potential to go into Middle East market? The second question is for Mohammed. If that is the case, how can Oman support Japanese company?
Which
simply
industrial
what-
company? Yes.
Okay. Actually, in the 70s and the 80s, the main company was the construction. Yeah, and Marubeni and Taisei Kensetsu and of course the Toyota is the major companies. And nowadays, I'm sorry, I don't know, but was still a technology company like Chiyoda Kako or others are very active in other demilitarization countries. So maybe more high tech, the company might have a room to join the Middle Eastern market. Thanks.
Oman is inviting the new environmental energies or study stations, etc. So that's the situation so far. Okay, Your Excellency.
Toro, maybe.
Yes. Okay.
Toro,
Yeah, please.
Maybe
Yes, please share what is happening and what company or industry would you like to invite from Japan, please.
I think we'd like to invite all industries, but maybe I can focus on
Thank you very much.
on a few of them. Yes, I think Oman has a very growing ambition in a couple of areas. One is the technology aspect. And when I say technology aspect, is in the digital space. This is a very growing area for the country as a whole. And all the industries are now focusing on digitization, in particular, on different pillars of digitization, basically. That's one. I think the second biggest element for us as a country is on the renewable side, on the renewable energy side, whether it's wind, solar, or the green hydrogen. So any element from this aspect is more than welcome. I think the third one is the petrochemical industries and ensuring we create a downstream market in the country from the derivatives of the refining products. This is a third area where we are focusing on. I think the upstream business of exploration and production for sustaining our current market and revenue generation from that's a fourth pillar. And I think the trading business, when it comes to energy sector as overall. So from our side as an OQ, we fall into all these different pillars, and all of these are mega projects that we would like different partners. And knowing the advancement of Japan when it comes to technical and technological innovation, I think this will be a great platform for us having these type of partnership.
Thank you very much. How about human resource development, like GLOBIS?
I think you said it, Toro, and I think you're putting a pressure on me now.
No.
We're very happy.
No. Okay.
We're very happy to have GLOBIS opening, an office in Oman. I think leadership development is one of the key priorities for the country. His Majesty has set his foundation by establishing the Royal Academy to develop local talents at all different levels.
Yes.
I think his recent announcement at the cabinet of developing the one team philosophy across the government sector is also another big pillar of human capital development. So welcoming, expertise in developing human capital in Oman is something that we are always looking for and will continue to evolve.
Thank you very much. We also learn from Oman a lot. Thank you very much. So, Ambassador, what kind of support? That's his question. Can do for us.
I think, as a government, the government has taken a political decision to be successful, to succeed. So we make sure that any investment that comes to Oman remains strong and successful. So we need to remove any hurdles that any company faces. We need to be more attractive. We need to lay a number of incentives to attract, and we need to be the most attractive. We already have natural attraction, like the geostrategic location, the abundance of wealth, not just financial, but natural wealth in the country, which it attracts a lot of interest. But strategically, we are redefining the way we deal. All the legislation, the laws have been revised to make it very attractive to investments. But I think one of the strongest points is, as my colleague from OQ, Mr. Ali, has mentioned and has shown and demonstrated, we have put corporations, we have put companies in place to deal with investors directly, which makes life very easy. They talk the same language, they understand what they need, and they cater for all their needs. So it's less government, more corporate, and more spoken language that is easier to attend. Thank you.
Okay, so last question. Sorry.
I hear a lot about corporations and investments and etc. But a lot of innovations nowadays, not just in Japan, actually born in startups. So how Japanese startups can leverage like resources they have, get into the Oman or like a Middle East market, or that's not in the scope at all? I'm just curious about it.
Okay. Makes sense. Yes, please.
I think SMEs is very important. It has been on our radar from day one. Local SMEs, and we hope to make Oman as an incubator to attract also international SMEs that could thrive and grow in Oman, and to a point where they no longer become just an SME. And I think we have a lot of, within the country, we have institutions that support the success of SMEs, that support, by the way, Oman average age is 25. So you can see how SMEs and young and strong, healthy population goes hands in hand. And I think the institutions in Oman will really support, attraction of Japanese or international SMEs.
Do you like to go to Oman, set up your company? Okay, almost time is up. My takeaway is to go back to Middle East more. And the GLOBIS will take initiative on this. So GLOBIS Oman would be established. Mr. Hori is there. So we'll be committed. Hori-san, we'll go to Oman. Yay. Okay, thank you very much. And give the great appreciation to the panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.